All right, let's do a quick mic check. Looks like it's working. At least the levels look like they're working. Oh, you can hear me. Good. That's good. All right. Cameras will be on in just a minute. Had a very demanding cat who wouldn't let me, uh, you know, move, basically. All right. Oh, that is hazy as fuck. Oh, there we go. All right, it's a start. Uh, it's been a very slow start today. So I'm going to be starting a new painting today. But I'm out of boards, so I'm going to take one off and start a new one. This was the black and white painting I did recently. I'm pretty much calling it done at this point. I think it came out pretty good. I might do something to it later. We'll see. But yeah, for now, calling it done. I wanted to have my paper and everything ready prior to starting today, but everything seemed to take longer and get in the way and just not work out. So I'll just do this right now. Luckily, I usually have almost no viewers in the beginning of the stream, so no one's here to care. And anyone who's viewing this after the fact can skip ahead. So the title for today's stream, I don't know if anyone saw the thumbnail, but the seeing red thing is a bit of a joke. I'm not angry. I'm just going to be doing a red painting. So that's why. But I don't think most people have seen the thumbnail or will see the thumbnail, um, or pay too much attention to it because it's not in the title. But yeah. You saw the thumbnail? Okay. Anyone on Twitch won't see it. It's probably only going to be a YouTube thing. Right now, I'm just taping my paper to my board. It's not all that interesting, but fortunately, I have to do it. I figured, like I said, almost no one comes in the beginning of my streams. Takes a little while to get viewers, so I saw a podcast recently that talked about AI art because I can't avoid it, even on podcasts that are unrelated to it. And I found it very frustrating how like people who don't know what they're talking about just talk about stuff sometimes. I want to do a response video. I don't know if I'll have the time to, but I'm gonna make an effort. I was thinking about trying to do it live, but I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. Just because I have to like kind of try and take the time to put my thoughts in order. But yeah, it's frustrating to hear people who are just uninformed talk about things they don't know about, which I'm sure is a common problem and something people get upset with me about because I'm not informed on everything. It's impossible. Um, and it's really, what is it? The I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where it's like you don't know what you don't know, so you talk with confidence. Why a lot of times people who are like experts on certain subjects seem less confident about things than people who are experts. It's because they have so much knowledge, they actually have an idea of where the gaps in their knowledge are. So I'm just doing my crosshairs right now, which is just the center lines. I it's technically a grid because it's a, you know, technically it is a grid, but I don't generally grid out my paintings anymore. But I do like having the center lines to help me, you know, position things. I would do it on camera, but it's so much easier to just do it here before I put it on my easel. All right. Things are going to get hazy for a minute. Okay, just making sure nothing important. I try not to like look at my phone and messages on stream, but sometimes with certain things, I feel like I need to just to make sure nothing's happened. It's like my paranoia. All right, there we go. Uh, you have a message for me? You look, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. I love you too. So today I'm going to be painting some of the homework for the class I'm taking with Nicholas Uribe. That's what I'll be working on. So um, that's why the seeing red, it is a red painting. I know, I'm so deep. Um, but I like my little jokes. Anyway, so that's what I'll be working on today. Now, a red painting isn't exactly new for me. I've done quite a few actually. So I'm gonna try and mix it up and make it kind of. It's gonna be a mixture of red and black and white. And I need to break out my My cadmium red light, if I can open it, which is a big if. Because last time I tried to open it, I could not. All right. Actually, I'm going to, let's see. Okay, everything's secure. Good. Um, just a second here. I am going to clean this off camera real quick because I get more leverage that way. So I know it makes for great streaming, but what can you do? It's just the amount of pressure that I need is the easel's just not designed for it. Not that it's going to break the easel or anything. It's more an issue of stability. It just kind of wiggles around a lot. And my light's attached to my easel, so it's just better to have better leverage and stability. I don't know if the sounds are transferring over, but oh, I hate this scraping sound. It is very painful to my ears. I mean, that's the advantage of using glass, but oh, it's painful. So, hopefully it's not transferring. Okay, Michelle, no problem. So if anyone is has a oil painting palette and they want to clean it, there's a few things that I can give advice on. So one is a glass palette is great because you can use a metal scraper to scrape things off. Obviously, if you don't let things dry, it makes life a lot easier. But the other thing that a lot of people don't know is that rubbing alcohol, like, you know, just 70% rubbing alcohol or whatever, dissolves dried paint, oil paint. And if you have a glass palette, rubbing alcohol will not damage your glass, so you can put some on and just, clean it that way. A lot less scrubbing involved. So yeah. It's not something that I've heard a lot of people mention. Obviously, some people know it because that's how I found out about it. But it's not the most common thing. It's not what's it called? Necessarily the fastest because it doesn't dissolve it that well or that fast. But, it's definitely better than nothing, especially if you're not up for scraping for whatever reason. All right, there we go. All done. Good enough, at least. All right, now we'll see if I can open up my cadmium red light. Hey! Oh my god, it worked. I cannot recommend these enough. These type of pliers for opening up paint tubes. Yeah, way better than the gimmicky plastic thing I bought. All right, so the reason for the CAD red is because, like I said, this is going to be a red painting. So yeah, that's what I'm doing today. I'll be honest, I think this might be a little too like orangey, but it's all right. I'll roll with it. If I need, I can always do some spot modification with my cadmium. I mean, my cadmium, my quinacridone rose. So one of the most important things when painting from photo reference in my opinion, um, is to use proportional to like crop your image proportionately to the canvas. So make sure that if this is a 2 by 3, that your canvas is that your reference is a 2 by 3 proportion wise. This is a 9 by 12. In Photoshop, I can make it a 9 by 12, but it doesn't have to be Photoshop. It just needs to be the same proportions. It's so important when working from photo reference. I'd say it's important from any reference, but you can't crop, life. So if you're working from a model, it's a little harder. They do have proportionate dividers, and they do have like what are they called? Viewfinders, and all those work really well to help. But yeah. The reason I say that is because I'm essentially using a very, very loose grid system here where I'm just like, okay, I'm finding the points where the figure intersects with the the dividing lines and with the edges of the canvas. And you can't use the edges of the canvas if um, if the proportions are different. That's the main thing. You can't do that. That's why it's so important. Now, I'm not going to get this perfectly right, but hopefully it's like ballpark right. And that's one of the things they talk about when they talk about using negative shapes. It's like this shape, whatever, this shape is. Not in this instance, it's not that useful, but conceptually, I'm just giving what it is. Just realized this reference has a bunch of circles in it. I may modify that a bit. Not crazy about painting circles, especially if they're not necessary. We'll see. It's just because it's so hard to get them correct. There are ways of doing it, of course, but like I said, it's mostly if it's not necessary, I probably will modify them a little bit. It's not perfect. I'm just debating if I want to do a block in first and then fix it, or try and fix it now and then do my block in. I feel like if I do my block in, I'm gonna mess it up anyways, so I might as well just block it in now. But before that, there's a cat. There's a Winnie, and she may run before I can grab her. We'll see. She does not like being picked up as much. Oh, I got her. It's a Winnie. Yeah, I know. You don't like being held. I know. I know. It's okay. Shh, shh, shh. Little girl, you sit on my lap all the time. Just because I'm standing doesn't make it any different. He literally was sitting on my lap and would not leave me alone. Uh, earlier. That's why I couldn't stream. She was just like, "No, I'm not. I do not want to leave you." Okay, okay, okay. Go. All right, so I'm just gonna lay in, like, try and block in the big shapes of everything. Actually, gonna clean this brush first. Oh yeah, forgot to last time. I usually clean my brushes after my painting session, but uh, that did not happen. That's why I have a jar of my other brushes right now soaking, trying to revive them. See if it's a successful or not. I need to be better about handling my brushes. You take good care of your brushes, they'll definitely last a lot longer. So definitely worth doing. Just developed some bad habits lately. All right, let's get started here. All right, you can't see some of that mixture. It's just a gray mixture right now. I probably won't be using the oh, what's it called? The brayer, the roller thing today. I love the effect it gives me and everything, but when I'm doing these paintings that are very limited in color, even more than like my quote unquote normal ones, um, I feel like it will make more of a mess and won't really accomplish the goal of using them. So I use the brayer because it messes things up, but it also transfers color and it has a really cool effect that it like contributes to. But when everything's the same color, it doesn't have that option of like moving the color around. So it ends up just mushing everything around. Um, yeah. There are some aspects of the brayer that I still would like, and so we'll see. There's a chance, but there are other ways of accomplishing that. Main thing is that I like about the brayer, main thing. One of the main factors too is because I don't lay out, because I don't tone my canvas. It's a way of what's it called, transferring paint into all the nooks and crannies that like would be covered if I did what's it called, um tone my canvas, but because I don't, there's like white spots that get left, and the brayer could help with that. And to put out more white. I realize I'm covering up a lot of the marks I already made, but it's fine. I'll, I'll leave a little remnants of them and then go back in and put them back in at some point. They're just like, they're not all that important, honestly. By important, I don't mean that they don't matter, although that is debatable. It's more that the exact location is not crucial. That's usually what I mean when I say it's not important. It's a matter of like accuracy and what it contributes to the painting. And how distracting it is, that too. We are so dialed in on people's faces as humans If you get the face wrong, it is unbelievably distracting. Whereas if you get, the whatever plant hanging on the wall slightly off, like usually no one will even know, depending on how you get it off. That is, I regret that phrasing. Depending on how you paint it and in what way it's inaccurate. Hey, Laura. Sorry you're late. You don't have to apologize for being late. There's no one's late. You show up when you want. I do appreciate you coming by though. The VOD is always here as well. Unless I say something truly stupid, in which case I will delete a VOD because I am not about to leave, you know, video of myself online in that instance. But yeah. So I'm doing some more homework today. We have the homework is to do a red painting. So I'm doing a red painting. Although clearly not all of it's going to be red, right? Like I think that's pretty obvious based on the coloring. But yeah. So I broke out my uh CAD red light today for this. How are you doing, Laura? What are you up to today? You have a few projects planned. You got a painting sketched out, but you have to wait till some chores get done and the house activity slows down. That's cool. I mean, it sucks. I hate chores, but that is what it is. But yeah, that's it's good that you're getting things set up to get going. Yeah, I'm not good at doing chores. I mean, I do them. I'm just like some people have no problem doing chores and stuff around the house and so on. I'm not that person. My paint space is a disaster right now. You need to figure out how to minimize storage is an issue. Yeah, I hear you. That is a difficult issue. I'm lucky I have the space. I know that. Like, I'm not efficient with my space, so I'm definitely very lucky to have more space than most, I would say. Um, yeah, I'm very aware of that fact. That is just not clean enough for what I need. All right. So I'm not the best at cleaning my brushes. Camera focus. I'm not the best at cleaning my brushes and keeping my brushes organized and clean and like, one is a light, one's a dark, one's, a red, one's a this. I'm not very good at that. So, in instances where I absolutely have to have a clean brush and do like clean marks with a particular color, there are a few options. Obviously, I can grab a new brush. That does work. Usually doesn't last long because the brush gets dirty. Um, I can, you know, just clean the brush. That does work. I can also load up the brush with a lot of paint so that the paint I put down is clean because it's not actually from the like touching the brush. It's so loaded. But another thing is these silicone like paint mover thingies. They work really well too. It just all depends on the circumstance. Some circumstances you can do one, some you can do the other. But yeah, these aren't perfect. They do not give you a ton of nuance on everything. They're kind of like a palette knife in a lot of ways, but they are a little more controllable. I don't want to say controllable than a palette knife, but you can get a little more nuance with them, I feel like, because of the softness that they have. One of the storage things I thought was cool that's popular online is hanging your brushes, your paints, your paint tubes on the wall with like binder clips. I tried doing that. It wasn't practical for me because of where I paint and everything, but it is a cool look. I think it has I do think it's a cool look. And I could see it being a good way of storing things, you know? Yeah, I'm not the most organized. I will say I do like these shelves I put up. They're like I think they're like 4 inch deep shelves, maybe five. But they're not like full on bookshelves. I do like them. Before that, I had a lot of my paintings just tacked up to the wall. I think this is better than having them tacked up. The shelves are great. Yeah, I think they work really well. I'm not saying they were the cheapest thing in the world, but they weren't the most expensive thing. I have a friend who made his own. He just made it with wood. He just bought like uh cheap wood, painted it white, and then just tacked them up or nailed them on the wall. Um, because they're fairly easy to make. I don't really have the tools at home or the time, so I bought them. I still had to install them though. You have two long crafting tables in your room, meeting in the corner. One has two pieces on it. The other is a paint workspace. There's a spot under the table that you didn't use, so I could put storage. So I will say that like tables, when you put tables together and they meet, usually it's like there's this like corner that ends up being like just dead space. So that's something to pay attention to. Another thing I did for storage, before I had before I put up the shelves, let me show you real quick. I can't exactly show you, but I'll kind of demonstrate it. Um, so what I did was I took uh, I took a piece of cardboard, um, like a thick piece of cardboard, not like regular like box cardboard. And I used um, I used a command strip, those like reusable tacky things, um, or the kind that come off. But I did the one with the Velcro. So basically, I tacked it up to the wall, and the point of using the cardboard was to make like a little shelf that I could clip things to. So I used binder clips to hold drying paintings to the wall that way. Now, none of my paintings are all taped to a board, so I'm using the board, not the painting itself. That's why I can do that. But it's a way of like using the wall to for extra space. You can do it with nails or, other stuff. Like it doesn't have to be the command strips. That was just an easy way of doing it for me. And then I have one of those like rolling carts too. Only problem with my rolling cart is it doesn't actually fit under my table. So I can maneuver it around, but it doesn't fit under my table over here. But yeah, I am horribly inefficient with my space. I can't claim otherwise. All right. All right. I am going to take a quick break. I'm not ending stream. I'm just gonna, be right back kind of thing. So excuse me for just a few minutes. Let's get the be right back. You think you have a spare rolling cart either in the basement or in the cat room, so you try to locate and empty it, move it under your table? Yeah, that'd be great. We have a cat. It's a Dresden. Hi, Dresden. Oh, baby boy. Yeah. Oh, we're going straight for the licks, huh? Oh, baby boy. Yeah. I wish I could paint while holding him. Dresden, there's nothing over there. I don't know what you think you're seeing over there, but it's not something. He has the look now that he's seen something to play with. He is locked in. Look at that. Just like locked in on something over there. You cannot play with whatever you think you can play with over there. That's my desk. Yeah. All right, little boy. I was worried you'd be able to hear me chewing. All right. So I I took a photo and overlaid it with my painting. Overlaid the reference with my painting. And I got some things wrong. All good. Just part of the process. So I feel like if I didn't have this process, the laying in the painting, like sketching it in and everything, I would go a lot slower than I currently do. because I know that I'm going to be going in and using Photoshop to find my reference. Um, it it frees me up to be much quicker about it because I'm not worried that I have to get everything right away. Not that getting everything right or speed is always the best or most important thing, but this was the part that I got the most wrong. Is this arm. And this actually, by getting this arm wrong, it actually messed up. Like I messed up on other places because I got this wrong, which is something that I see all the time. Like that I do, that happens to me all the time. It is one thing is wrong, and because I can see that something's wrong, I misidentify what is wrong, and then I assume it's something else. I've gotten a lot better at this, but it's one of those things that has been a consistent issue. And I've seen it in my work and I've seen it in other people's work as well. Let's see. Laura says, I might have missed it, but have you explained why the red painting was the assignment this week? I haven't. It just is the assignment. Um, it, the class is a class on color, and we do different exercises to to learn about color and to have a better grasp on it and a deeper understanding of it and so on. Um, so yeah, this time it's a red painting because up until now we haven't had a ton of saturation. So this is a saturated color. Um, Personally, I'm like fine with it. I've done red paintings before. Uh, Ironically enough, I did a red painting of Nicholas Uribe already. So and I've done other red paintings too. Like I've done multiple red paintings at this point, like either monochrome, like just red, or mostly. So I'm very comfortable with it. Not saying that this is like going to be an easy painting. I don't know. Easy paintings are kind of don't exist in a way. But you know, I'm not like I'll put it this way, the red is not going to be on its own something that I'm like overly concerned with. But yeah, that's all I've got as far as like why the red. Thought maybe he chose red because there are different ways to shade it with contrasting colors. Well, I mean, I think there's that applies to every color, doesn't it? It's a very primal color, I think. It's a very basic color in a lot of ways, right? So I think that's also part of it. Yeah, it's red is a very basic. I mean, not just basic as like, you know, um, like what's it called, primary, but it's also very basic, like in our psyche, you know. Um, it's one of the first colors we see when we are developing as babies. Um, it's a lot of pigments, even earth pigments, have red color to them. So it was one of the first like saturated colors we had access to. Uh, obviously our blood is red, which people have used to color things as well. So yeah. Other than that, I can say maybe he explained it a bit better and I'm doing a poor job of like conveying it, which could definitely be the fact. But I think as far as like shading it and contrasting it, I don't know if it's any different than any other color. I mean, you can shade. Well, I guess yellow kind of falls apart when it gets dark. Like yellow is very limited in its color range, I guess. Not maybe not very limited, but more limited. Um, I don't think blue is. Blue is very, very versatile. So yeah, I like personally I really like blue for a painting color. Possibly more than red, honestly. If we're talking just about like a color for painting in. Although I just like to have a wide range of options more than anything. You always see demonstrations with red in particular where they show shadowing with green. It's complementary rather than adding browns or blacks to shade. Uh, I'll be honest, I haven't seen those. That technically works with blue as well. Um, that would that would work with yellow as well, but yellow, the problem yellow has is that there is no such thing as like dark yellow, right? Yellow, I mean, in a way there is, but there isn't. Once yellow goes past a certain point, it just becomes like a dirty kind of yellow color. Um, that loses that vibrancy. And you either have to shift into greens or oranges. Um, but reds and blues don't have that problem. They do on the higher end as they go up. Red, um, red goes into the pink, which starts to lose the red feel of it, and now it's like pink, right? And so you either then have to shift if you want to, and it goes into that pastel area. Same thing with blue, right? Even if it goes into like turquoise, it has a tendency to go into the pastel. So in order to avoid that, once again, you either need to split off and go into, for red, into the orange, so incorporating that yellow, or you could technically go into like a lavender, but that still goes more into the pastel colors. So yeah. Um, Also, as far as like shading goes, I I use black all the time. I think I hate that it's become this taboo issue to use black in your painting. I don't like I understand to a degree where that comes from, but I don't like it overall. I think black works just fine for shading. It definitely has properties to it that influence the paint, just like white does, just like yellow does. So you have to be aware of those things. But like if you're shading yellow, for instance, I've done an experiment where I tried to like make yellow darker, and I tried using a pre-mixed black, a black, and a black eye mix, and there's no difference, no substantial difference between them. They all just go, darker and dirty kind of looking. Um, yeah. So there's no real difference there. And the same thing with red. And actually, I use black like this brownish color. It's so much easier to get that with black than it is with blue. Um, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just so much quicker and easier. I'm using Mars Black, so that will influence it, of course, because different blacks have different properties and different, some are cooler. Ivory black is considered a cool black, although I think that's actually a mistake. Ivory black, I think, used to be a cool black, and now it's kind of a neutral warm black, but it's still considered a cool black. But I don't think it really is. Maybe in comparison to others. Oh, that was so uncomfortable. I had to sneeze and I was desperately trying to mute in time. And so I was holding it in. Eh, that was very uncomfortable. It's also worth noting that green being red's what's it called? Complementary color. Um, if you think about it, green is essentially blue and yellow. Like even if it's not a pre-mixed color, green is blue and yellow, right? That's how you make green. So, um, essentially what you're saying is if you mix all your primary colors together, it neutralizes, right? When you think about it, it's like, yeah, like if you take all your primary colors and mix them all together, what do you get? Kind of a like desaturated brownish mess, right? It's not all that surprising when you think about it. That actually goes for all complementary colors, right? Now that I think about it, that's such an easy way to think about it. And because what orange is blue's complementary, right? And that's just red and yellow. So yellow's, according to the, color wheel is uh purple, but I don't think that's accurate. Either way, it still stands. It'll just make it, it'll what's it called? It'll still function the same as far as like neutralizing it. Funny, I've never heard it phrased that way. It's actually really simple when you think about it in that way. Some of this stuff I'm not going to worry too much about as far as like getting it right at the moment. Like I'll sketch it in right now, but it'll get moved around over time and I'm not really concerned about it. Something I've mentioned before is using the wiper tool that I'm using is really great for drawing into wet paint. It works so well. It's so simple. Um, but the danger of using it is if you let the paint dry with these marks in it, it can be a problem. Not definitely a problem, but can be, depending on how thick your paint is. So it's something to be careful of. Like, there's actually, I can zoom in here. Like here, for instance, hold on. Like here, for instance, there, there's like this ridge that's created from the paint that I moved. I left that there. It is going to be so hard to to paint over that and not see it. Um, if I need to, like if I need to paint over that, it'll be impossible. Um, I'll have to actually scrape it off first and then paint over it. And sometimes it's even harder or more subtle. Like when it's a divot, you can't scrape a divot off. So it's just it's even more difficult to deal with. So it's something to be aware of. I don't think it's going to be a problem today because like I'm going to go in right now and paint more. So hopefully I kind of get rid of most of the big marks. You know, that would be the hope. All right. Normally I wouldn't just wipe this off like this because um I I usually don't have a problem with the colors being a little mixed. But here I'm trying to keep the background and the character colors a little bit more separated. So that's why I just scraped it all off like that. But yeah, I almost wanted to ask if I can just submit my uh a painting I did in the past for this week's homework, which is kind of silly because the whole point is to learn, you know, I'm not that's why I didn't, but it was it was a thought I had because I'm just like, man, I just sent you a painting that's all red, you know, recently, and I just used that as my homework. But like I said, I'm not looking to like cut corners. You know, like that's not the goal of classes like this. This isn't, you know, school where I'm forced to take classes. Yeah, I did that Nicholas Uribe painting of him as Deadpool. Not Deadpool, Hellboy. Jeez, my brain. But I also did a painting. Nicholas did a painting on his channel once um, that was all red. I actually did a study of that. Um, and then I did a version of my own that was inspired by it. Yeah, so like I said, I have some experience with this color. I also did an orange slash red painting before any of that. Although that one was, to call it a red painting might not be accurate. Do I have it back here? Oh yeah, I do. I can I can show it later. It's one of my limited hue paintings, which has a deceptive amount of color to them. Some people think they're monochromes and they're not, so that's why I say that it have a deceptive amount of color to them. All right. So, despite what I planned, I think I'm going to use the roller. I wasn't planning on it, but I think I'm going to. You're going to work on a series of random vegetables like the onion. You took a nice reference photo for a beet a few years ago. It might do a mushroom and a squash or something. That's cool. Okay, so the reason I am going to use the roller today is I'm going to try and use it to get rid of some of those edges I was talking about. I'm going to use it also to spread the like white out a little. And then I'm also going to try and use it to deposit some random red marks around so that it has a little more cohesiveness. You think you have a nice rutabaga reference? That's cool. I don't know. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. All right, so let's start here. We'll just, yeah. It'll help you get used to painting with brushes. Absolutely. Uh, Nothing wrong with that. I think it's absolutely a good way of getting into things. There's a reason people often start with like still lifes, you know. Normally, when I use the roller, I don't wipe it quite as frequently. And like I said, I'm trying to use it a little different this time. I'm being careful not to get it into the red though, because the red, I don't want to really contaminate it that much. You just noticed you squint without squishing up your face. I mean, I do this. Is that what you mean? Like this is me squinting. Michelle says I squint all the time. She gives me a hard time because she says my eyes look like they're never open, which I think is just rude. I will say this one thing, like I'm probably going to need glasses at some point. Like I can tell already that my vision isn't as good as it used to be. It's only in like very, very small specific details, but I mean, my vision was at one point better than 2020. So noticing it getting slightly worse is unfortunate. Um, but when I do finally need glasses, at least I heard that you can just take your glasses off to squint. So it's nice instead of squinting. Laura says, yeah, most people make weird scrunched up faces when they squint. Huh, interesting. I haven't thought about that. Cool. Yeah, some of the some like packaging or bottles or stuff like that I've had a hard time reading lately. Although I do maintain that it's still only on the very smallest of print, and also when they make the print almost the same color or literally the same color as the background, like on charging devices, if you've ever tried to read the like wattage and all that stuff, and it's just basically an imprint in the plastic, and you're like, okay, this is black on black, just imprinted on, and it's like the tiniest font ever. And I'm just like, I cannot read this. I need to get like light on it and shine it in certain. But the reason I know that part of it's my eyes and not the print is because I used to just bring things closer to focus on it, and now I have to find like the right distance that'll help me focus on it. So I can tell it's starting to fail me. I'm going to need glasses soon. Uh Getting old sucks. Having said that, a lot of people have glasses from much younger ages, so it's not really that big of a deal. I'm just bitching or complaining, I should say. All right, now that I made a mess of my painting, let's go fix it. Yeah, Laura says, yeah, I've had to get new glasses every 2 years since I hit the age when the eyes start to go. But I noticed COVID has really affected my eyes. They got bad. Oh, sorry to hear that. That sucks. Yeah, I thought about like maybe one day I'll also do LASIK type of thing. Like I know a lot of people have done LASIK. So maybe type of thing, but it freaks me out. The thought of it freaks me out. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I know a lot of people have had LASIK done, so it's like one of those things that sounds very common, or because I know a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal, but freaks me out. Really freaks me out. My mom has some weird issue with her eyes. Um, she had cataracts, so she had to have that done. And then she also has these weird, like, um, not like eye floaters, but like an extreme version of that, where it's like this black stuff in her eyes that she sees. I forget what it's called. Um, that technically it's not genetic, so it's not guaranteed that I will have those. But the concept just freaks me out. All that stuff freaks me out. Anything to do with my eyes that it's like not perfect freaks me out. I used to not be able to put in eye drops at all, but I developed such bad allergies that I needed to put eye drops in, so I've kind of overcome that. That's funny. That used to be a big challenge for me. I do wonder how working on computers all day has affected my eyes. Like, I wonder if it's made them worse. Probably. Probably it's made them worse. Probably hasn't helped. Funny, I messed up my marks and now I'm trying to find them again. It's just like, oh man. Sometimes I make my life harder. Not sometimes, often in painting. I make my life harder than it needs to be. I may need to take another break soon to stretch. I feel my back is like not happy with me right now. Going back to the glasses conversation for just a second, and then I'll let it go. Um, I am actually shocked that I haven't had glasses until now because both my parents have glasses from a young age. So I lucked out, honestly. Because they both have had glasses from like, I don't know, forever, basically. Yeah, to get in, talk a little more about the painting and the, process of painting. One thing I'd like to kind of point out here is that, um, right now, like I'm painting the hips and the leg. Well, I'm painting everything, but at the very moment, that's kind of where I'm at, right? And there's a lot of anatomy happening here. Like there's the hip, there's a bit of fat happening above the hip, and then where uh like there's that dip and then more because it's where the what is it? Not rotator cuff, but hip. There's a name for it. I'm blanking. Anyways, doesn't really matter. But the point is the knee is like right here. And so there's all this like anatomy here that I'm kind of glossing over. I'm going to paint most of it in. Uh, I'm going to address it. It's just at this early stage, there's no point in really putting too much effort into it. Um, I'm just mentioning it because uh, there's a tendency to want to like put in all the detail, put in all the anatomy, do all the. It's like I'm probably going to end up like covering up any of that stuff if I put it in right now. So it's just a waste of time and energy to do that at this stage. Well, it says, my son did a project in high school, biology, going through the family tree, and found that all the blondes needed glasses from a young age, but all the dark-haired people didn't. It was weird. Interesting. But you married a man from Kenya, and even though he had good eyes, both my kids needed glasses by teen years. Not sure if they got the blonde genetics or it was from the other side. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, genetics are definitely an interesting subject, obviously. Um, yeah, I don't know. That one seems to be less consistent, we'll put it that way, as far as like how it transfers over. Just gonna stretch for a second. My neck is killing me today. Ugh. I really should have gone to the chiropractor earlier. Unfortunately, they're closed now. Maybe tomorrow morning. Since you married someone from Kenya, have you ever been to Kenya? Out of curiosity. That is something I would like to do more. I'd love to travel, the world, uh, where I could. There's definitely some places I don't want to go and some places I can't go, uh, or I wouldn't be welcomed. And there are places where I would struggle, absolutely struggle to find food that I could eat. So that there's that. But I would love to travel the world overall. The reason I'm for anyone who isn't familiar with me, who doesn't know, the reason I say there are places that I'd struggle to find food is I'm vegan. I went vegan in 2018 and I'm sticking with it. So some places are not very vegan friendly. Some are, some aren't. Some places are vegan friendly by accident. Some are vegan friendly on purpose. It kind of depends. And what I mean by that is like, or like the example is Oreo cookies. Like they're vegan, right? Um, but they're vegan by accident. They didn't mean to make Oreo cookies vegan. They just don't have any animal products in it. Um, you know, so there are countries that have like a lot of food that it doesn't use animals for, or, that are vegan by nature. And then there's a lot of countries that, uh, like Israel is actually an interesting mix. So Israel is very vegan friendly and in both ways. So a lot of food because they separate dairy and they separate dairy and meat for religious reasons. So they kind of list things that are dairy, things that are, that are meat, and then things that have neither. So it's very easy to figure out what you can and can't eat. And then, a lot of foods just don't happen to have any of either in. Like the easiest one is falafel, right? Get a good falafel. It doesn't have any meat or dairy in it. So it's real easy. And then certain parts of the country are very friendly to vegans. Like they have it on every menu. They're very clear about it. There's a ton of restaurants dedicated to it. So yeah, it's a mix. No Indian food is often. Anyways, what am I talking about? I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, so on the painting, uh, I'm trying right now. I'm just trying to get everything into place again, and also model in some of my like well, model in the form basically is what I'm slowly working towards. I have to, so all these like random marks or all these like mistake marks or like where the color got dragged in and everything, all those places I have to like repaint what was once there. But at the same time, um, I have to try and keep in mind that like I don't want to get rid of all of that because what was the purpose of even doing it if I'm going to just paint over all of it? So it's something where I have to kind of keep in mind that I want some of the mess that I made to stay in the painting, which is challenging, especially as a perfectionist or uh, a recovering perfectionist. Like I used to be a perfectionist and I'm trying not to be, and I'm working on it. It's not a good thing. Being a perfectionist, in my opinion, not a good thing. One of those things where it's like it sounds good, but it's not good. You want to be very, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you want to be good at what you do, of course, but being a perfectionist, like the way that it's, you know, used normally, it's more a detriment than a positive, I think. But it's definitely challenging to let go of that. So when painting wet into wet, if you need to paint one paint over another, it is very challenging. There's numerous ways of going about it, and there's no silver bullet. There's not one way of going about it because it depends on numerous factors. So right now my paint, obviously underneath, the paint on the canvas is completely wet. It's not set at all. Um, so, um, so if I want to lay paint on top of what is already there, there's a few options I have. Now, one, it's also worth noting that the paint that is there, while it's wet, is not the thickest in the world. All right, uh, Laura, sorry. Have have a good walk. Yeah. You might I mentioned you might want to check out the VOD later about this part because I'm talking about laying wet paint over wet paint. So, just letting you know. Hey Henry Spy, welcome. How you doing? So, I'm just talking about laying wet paint on top of wet paint. So the thing is, it kind of depends on the circumstance. Like I said, the paint I have right now isn't too thick, so usually I can either just put more paint on top and kind of overpower it, um, while recognizing that if I do that, there'll be some degree of like mixing on the canvas that happens. The other thing I can do, which I'm doing right now, is I'm loading up my brush with a lot of paint and then only on one side in particular. And then I'm holding my brush instead of like out like this, I'm holding it parallel to the canvas. And that allows me to deposit the wet paint on top of the other paint. Um, and then the other thing is because it's wet on wet, I can just scrape off paint if I need to, right? Like there's nothing that, like I can scrape it off with a brush like this if I just want to make it thinner. So I can just scrape it off with a brush. Or if I really need to, I can get out my scraping tool and do it that way. But another thing to note is that when I'm doing this, not sure if it shows on camera, but after nearly every brush stroke, I have to go in and clean my brush because the wet paint does get picked up and it will taint my mixture if I don't. So yeah, it's just slower, basically. See, when I go back and do it again, it taints the color, which is fine in this case. I knew it was going to, but something to be aware of. How you doing, Henry Spy? What's going on? I apologize if I didn't see your message for a while. I try to keep on track with the two chats, but sometimes I fear they get away from me a little bit. Not much, doing a crossword and stuff. Nice. I hate crossword puzzles. Sorry, I don't mean to come out swinging like, oh, fuck you. Don't mean it that way. I'm bad at them, so I don't like them. I'm dyslexic, so it's like, they're like one of my natural enemies. That and like words with friends and what's it called? What's that? Scrabble. I don't think I've ever enjoyed playing a game, Wordle, etc. Yeah, I don't think I've ever enjoyed playing any of those games. I've tried numerous times, and it's just not fun for me. I remember one time I played a friend of mine, Words with Friends. And he apparently is one of the better players amongst all my friends anyways. I didn't realize that. And I was like, all right, whatever, I'll play casually, maybe, whatever. Oh my God. He, like, within the first, I don't remember how many words, like, first, like, just couple, like, we're like 3 words in or something. And he, like, puts down like, I think it was a 3 letter word. No, oh, I remember what it was. He puts down like yeah, it was like a 2 or 3 letter word, but each letter made another word. So it was one word that made 3 more words, and they were like on like triple points or something like that. It's crazy. He like it was so ridiculous. Like he just within like one turn just not just no, I don't want to say a flexor. He was just playing the game. He was just trying to win, so he does what he's just really good at it, and I am really not. So, you know, uh yeah. I mean, he could have pulled punches, but like why would he theoretically, you know what I mean? It's that type of thing. So, yeah, it was just like it was insane. It was just like, all right, we're done here. I don't need this in my life. Well, I'm all good. You play with it with our other friends. It's all right. I'd crush him in like Pictionary. I don't know that actually. He's but whatever. I don't even remember what Pictionary is. I remember it's a drawing game. I don't remember how you play it though. Is it the one where you have to like draw a prompt and people guess it? I think that's it, right? What am I doing? My thing is trivia or was pop culture is escaping my grasp. You know, I used to be that way too. Like I had way more pop culture trivia in my head, and it is also I'm also losing grasp on it to a degree. But also I'll be honest, trivia was never my thing. Like trivia, like on its own, like in general, trivia was never my thing because I'm so bad with names that it's like it's sad. Like it's yeah, I'm so bad with names. It's just straight up sad. Um, but um, I think part of the reason that pop culture, like, I just don't care anymore as much. I've lost a lot of that. A lot of things just like whatever. I don't know. I think I don't know. I was talking with uh my second cousin, my cousin's kid. Anyways, we were talking about movies and stuff. And like, a lot of he's a teenager, and a lot of things for him is like he was tells me about a movie he saw and he's like, yeah, it was so cool, this happened or that happened, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of saw that coming a mile away because like I'd seen, all these other movies and I can like list them out and I'm just like that did the same thing. It's like, oh really? Because that was a new concept to me, and I'm like, yeah, well that explains it, right? Because like not exactly a new concept to me. I've seen all this stuff before. So I do think that age plays a factor in that stuff. And experience and knowledge, of course. Like I've getting into the animation world and, learning like storytelling and, practicing all that stuff. I studying it all. Like now a lot of times when I watch movies, it's just kind of like you kind of see a lot of the stuff coming way before it happens, which can take the fun out of it a little bit. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It doesn't take the fun out of it. I feel like it raises the bar, right? So the and that actually applies to art as well cuz like I remember when I was before I went to art school, there was an artist who I thought was like fucking amazing. And another artist, these are comic book artists. One I thought was amazing, and one I was just like, yeah, I don't like him that much. But he's good, but like not my favorite. And then after art school, when I saw their stuff again in comparison, I realized how much better the guy I originally didn't like was. And the other guy was more flashy and but really wasn't nearly as good kind of thing. So I don't know, the more you learn, the like all that stuff changes over time. By the way, we're about to have a cat visitor on camera. Isn't that right, Justin? Justin, meow meow. Oh, fluffy boy. Come on. Oh, baby boy. Yeah. Oh, your little knives. Right to the licking again? Why? Why do you go straight to the licking? Thank you. Thank you for not licking my face too much. I appreciate it. Yeah. Look, the camera's over there. Yeah, you don't know what the camera is. I know. The cats are all getting um, agitated because it's an hour before dinner. Yeah, I want them to see your pretty face. He's so fluffy. My fingers get lost in all that fur. It's funny because he doesn't normally like to chill out in my hands, like if I pick him up, but seems to be getting better at it, which is nice. Yeah. Say goodbye, Tristan. Say goodbye. Wish I could paint while holding him. I said that before, but yeah, really do. Yeah, I think some of that pop culture stuff and references and all that, it's just a product of like getting older and experience. But I'll also say, I think it's also a shifting of how we consume media and how much media we consume. I also think that's a part of it, right? Because like there used to be a much more cohesive aspect to media, and with streaming and everything, it's definitely splintered out a lot. So there's a wider, a much wider range to cover. No. Now I'm scraping off some of the paint right now because it's very thick and I don't want it to be this thick in certain areas. And it has a texture that the brayer left that I also don't want. So the reason I'm using this versus this scraper tool is because this is softer. So it actually has a much harder time removing all the paint. So it's just making it thinner versus like scraping down to nothing. Uh, let's see. We realize how precious our time is and attention is. We learn to curate our stuff. Absolutely. You accidentally wrote ho and it was it auto modded that. But yeah, I think that's also a factor. We realize how precious time is too. And and you know, there's that feeling of like been there, seen that kind of thing for sure. You know, it's harder and harder to see new things. Um, and I'll also point out that like I think there's evidence to support this a bit. There's a lot of things that are being put out there that aren't even trying to, you know, do new stuff, right? I mean, if there's a reason there's endless amount of sequels and so on, right? Like they're not trying. I'm not saying no one's trying, obviously, but you know, I'm just in general, right? Like there is that aspect of things too. And then I will say this, you know, I am now working on my, let's see, one, two, three, uh, fourth career, I think, technically speaking. Yeah, I think fourth career is what I'm working towards now at the moment. Um, and um, there is a I don't know how to describe it exactly. Like A less frantic, more calm, but or more, yeah, um focused than I used to have when I was younger, I think is the way I would phrase it or try to express it. It's kind of weird. It's hard to describe it. But yeah, I think that that works at least until I think of a reason it doesn't or something better. Like I mean, to be fair, I there's no getting around it. I have less energy than I did when I was 23. Like just unfortunately, there's a degree of that. Uh, there's no getting around that fact. But it's not. I don't know that it's a huge difference, honestly. Maybe I just wasn't a very energetic 20-year-old. That could be too. I've always been kind of a homebody. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a focus, like a degree of focus that has come into play that wasn't there before as I've gotten older. I mean, there's other factors too. Like at one point, I was, and I probably still am because I'm on medication. So saying that I'm not dealing with depression is probably inaccurate. Although I'm doing a lot better. But at one point, I was so depressed that like I didn't enjoy anything. Like I didn't enjoy watching TV, didn't like movies, playing it, nothing. Like there was nothing that I enjoyed because I was just so depressed. And I'm not at that place anymore, but there's a degree of that that stayed where it's just like, man, I just don't care. Like it's so hard to find TV that I even care about watching. Because like I got stuff to do. And I'd rather do my stuff than watch TV. Unless I'm going to fall asleep to watching it or watch it while doing something else. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. All right. This is starting to come together. I'll say this. I know some people feel weird. I've had people react kind of weird when I mention dealing with depression and stuff like that. Uh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing a lot better now. I've been in treatment. I'm doing therapy. I'm doing all that stuff. The reason I try and talk about it like this so openly is because I know people feel really weird about depression, and I don't want people who are dealing with that stuff to feel like it's a an issue, right? Like a lot of people deal with depression. It's not, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal. It can be a big deal, but like it's also nothing to be ashamed of. Just a lot of people deal with it. Go, you know, do what needs to be done. You'll be fine and you can get past it. Like, yeah. So yeah. Is she a nurse? She's in the Red Cross. Yeah, I noticed that. I'm gonna reduce the cross aspect to it. I The cross was unintentional, and I am going to reduce that because I don't like it. She's not a nurse. It's not meant to be anything related to the Red Cross. So yeah, that will be I will be modifying that as I go through it. The Red Cross came about because I was using the brayer and it pulled paint, and it just kind of happened. Just a silly joke of mine. No, no, no. I mean, you're kind of right. Like I noticed it when it was happening, and it's just like, ah, crap. All right, it's not a big deal. I mean, look, I could scrape it off entirely right now, but I'm going to leave it because some of those things will like peek through, and there'll just be something there. So yeah. But yeah, I noticed it as it was happening, and it's just like, ah, this is not what I want right now. But whatever. I will be finishing the stream soonish. By the way, I'm gonna just I try and give a bit of a notice because some people come in late or want to say something or whatever. But yeah, gonna be ending stream soon-ish. It's just getting to be that time. Um, I think I messed this up, but a little bit. Yeah, I did. Oh well. But yeah, it's getting to be that time, and the animals are all the cats are going crazy because they want dinner. It's not dinner time yet, but they still want it. They're not good at telling time. I'll be honest. They're kind of bad at it, honestly. My neck is also giving me problems, so yeah. I'm gonna call it a day very soon. I don't know what else to say as far as the painting. It's going to be a process of like a slowish process of refining it and modeling and everything. Um, I'll probably be working on this tomorrow night as well. Um, I stream. I should mention this. I stream Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Sunday day. And so I'll be working on this tomorrow as well to finish it. Hey Laura, welcome back. I'm actually going to be ending soon, unfortunately. I was just kind of like doing my normal sign off process, like, you know, um, yeah, I can feel my neck is really unhappy with me right now. I probably need to give it a bit of a break. So by neck, I also mean like here, because like I'm standing and holding my arm up a lot. But yeah. Um, I was gonna say I'm probably gonna be working on this tomorrow night as well. And then what else? Oh yeah, you should, Laura, you should probably watch the VOD about like when you left about whatever 15, 20, 30 minutes ago, whatever that was. Um, I did talk about painting wet into wet a bit. So anyone who's watching this and has issues with painting wet into wet, I'm not saying I just gave the definitive guide to it or anything, but you know, a starting place kind of thing. Um, that might be helpful. There's definitely some things I forgot to mention, like, um, how much oil you put on or add to the paint, stuff like that. I didn't really think about because I just didn't think about it, but could be helpful for anyone who's struggling to paint wet into it. I know it can feel very slippery and it can feel very much like kind of ice skating with the paint, but give it time, give it not just time, like work at it a little. You'll get there. Um, Personally, I don't like it. Very rarely feels like I'm sliding without control with my paint at this point. Not saying it never happens, but it's very, very rare and limited. You get used to it after a while, and you start gaining control to a point where it's not an issue. Okay, well, watch. Yeah, just obviously not. You don't need to watch the whole VOD. I'm just talking about like that point. Yeah, I think it was a pretty good start. Like obviously this is not as far from perfect, but it's a good start. It's also a good point I think to finish for the day because what I'm going to do I first of all, I think this is a good point, a good place to stop so that I can like come back to it with fresh eyes and see. It's good to step away from your painting and come back to it. Um, and the other thing is like I will take a photo of this and drop it underneath my reference to compare. Because now is actually a great spot to go back in and start editing again as far as like placement and the structure of everything. Because like some of it clearly got away from me as I messed it up with the brayer. And like I said, that's expected. You can be very precise with that stuff. Other painters are. I prefer to mess up, fix versus like getting it right from the very beginning. All right. All right. Thank you all so much for stopping by. I appreciate everybody who comes by and hangs out. Like I said, I will be streaming Monday night and Wednesday night, about 8, starting at 8:30 Central Time. Um, have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.